Okay. So there's someone sent me a clip of a comedian who was comparing Rosh Hashana, right, Jewish, and Rosh Hashana and New Year's non-Jewish, right? So
two horns.
yeah, well, right. So he's saying, Rosh Hashanah, well, right? Who will I kiss at midnight? Goyish. Who's gonna die this year? Jewish, right? But let's take a look at those sources, and let's get a better and a deeper understanding of this judgment of Rosh Hashanah. Okay, so the first source is something that we actually had last week. We went off in a different direction with it last week, which is the Mishnah. All right, number one, the Mishnah, part one, number one, which says, Ba'arba'a prakim olam nidon. In 4 times the world is judged. Pesach, on Pesach, it's judged ala tvua, on the produce, on the harvest. Ba'atzeret shavuot time, it's al perot ha'il, on the fruits of the tree. Rosh Hashanah, on Rosh Hashanah, kol ba'ei olam ovrin lefanav kivnei maron. All those who come to the world pass before God like b'nei maron. 3 different explanations. We'll say simply like sheep. Shenemar, as it says, hayotzer yachad libam hamevin el kol ma'aseyim, which is a fascinating verse. He formed together their hearts. He understands all of their actions, which right away lets us know that this judgment is being done with the full understanding and recognition of exactly who we are. Our challenges, our strengths, our weaknesses. So it's not this rote ruling, but it is all about that person. Uvechag, and on Sukkot time, nidon al hamayim, there's judgment over water. What will our water availabilities, rainfall, etc. be over the course of the year? Will it be a drought year? Will it be flooding? Will it be the right amounts? It's incredible. You see on the news, right? All you see is water, and there's nothing for them to drink. Right. When you look, we look at the Nebuch, these flooded areas. Yeah. Now the Gemara, that's the Mishnah. The Gemara there goes into this, and famously, Amarav Kuspedai, Amarav Yochanan, Shlosha Sfarim Niftachin Berosh Hashana. There are 3 books that are opened on Rosh Hashanah. Echad shel Rishayim Gemurin, one of wicked. The Echad shel Tzadikim Gemurin, the other for righteous people. The Echad shel Beinoniyim, and the others for those who are in between. Tzadikim Gemurin, those who are fully righteous. Nichtavin v'nechtavin are written and sealed la'alter mitli l'chaim, for life. Rishayim Gemurin, those who are evil, nichtavim v'nechtavin la'alter l'mita, are immediately written and sealed for death. Beinoniyim, those in the middle, are tluyim v'omdim, they are suspended and wait and see from Rosh Hashanah ad until Yom Kippurim. Zachu, if they merit, nichtavin, they're written for chaim, for life. Lo zachu, otherwise they are inscribed for death. Now, clearly there are no books in Shamayim, in the heavens. So why are we using this example, this visualization of a book, of it being written down? What lesson might that be teaching us?
Someone's keeping track of things on an ongoing basis.
Okay.
It's tangible for us.
Okay, it's tangible. Good. There's an accounting, right? But if we use, right, we don't say that, there are 3 decisions: a decision for death, a decision for life, or a decision to wait. We say it's being written down. So there's a certain
permanence, or
there's a certain permanence. Okay, there's a certain seriousness to it. There's a certain permanence, At the same time, it's not engraved. There's a certain lack of absolute permanence to it also. So there's a certain, right, there's a seriousness to it. There also is a little bit of flux.
Is it written with pencil or ink?
Yeah, yeah. Now, on source number 3, Rashi says, Beinoniyim are mechza al mechza, are half and half. That's like, the Olympic photo finish, right? And it's hard to imagine, right, that photo finish of half and half. The Rambam, which we also saw last week, well, we'll see in a moment. But before we turn the page and we see this Rambam, what difficulty do we have with this Gemara? Sometimes, we hear something enough times that we stop thinking about it, we stop analyzing it, we stop scrutinizing it. So all those who are righteous inscribed for life, all those who are wicked inscribed for death.
Well,
the Beinoniyim, we wait and see, right? Wait until, it's pushed off until Yom Kippur. And therefore they should try to get past that halfway point. What problem do we have with this?
Well, the reality versus the...
Okay, what's the reality that we see? Now, who are we to judge, right, this or that, right? But, okay, there's some people that it's hard to imagine. It's pretty clear. Hitler lived for many years. He passed through many Rosh Hashanas. Assad is still going strong, barrel bombing his people. There are lots of really unsavory characters out there, and they don't seem to be inscribed for death. And you have many righteous people. And at some point, no matter how righteous you are, along with taxes, death is unavoidable. Right? So, how are we meant to understand this? How do we take this and work this in with the reality that we see around us? Lots of righteous people die, lots of wicked people live.
Except that the question is, what's the definition of living and what's the definition of dying?
Okay, good.
One could be dead and still inhaling and exhaling and eating.
Okay.
And be the walking.
Okay.
And have no life in them.
Good.
Nor do they produce anything living and vibrant.
Okay, good.
Which is a form of death.
Yes. So let's go further. Beautiful. So clearly we need to massage somewhat our understanding or our definition of the life and death that's being described over here. So let's take a look at the Rambam. Right? The Rambam says, "V'shikul zeh," this calculation, it's not simply a numerical basis of how many mitzvot and otherwise does a person have. Go dalam. Rather, it's according to their magnitude, their effect. Yesh zechut. There are some merits. She keneged kama vanot, which will outweigh many sins and brings a positive. Yanim sabot davar tov. Yesh avon shu keneged kama zechuyot. And you have some sins that might outweigh a number of mitzvot. The Ein Shoklim, second paragraph, Elabadaito Sholkel Deot. This whole measurement can only be done according to the God who knows. V'hu HaYodea, He's the one who knows. Heyach Orchen, how do these merits line up, keneged, with the Avonot? Right? Only He can make that calculation. Tosafot, source number 5, asks the issue that we brought up. Midikachashiv Beinoniyin, if we are mentioning those who are in the middle, mashma, that implies Sadiq and Kari Lamish Zchiyotav Merubin, or Rishon Gemur Lamish Avonotav Merubin. Right? A tzaddik is someone who has more merits. And a Rosh is someone who has more averot, more sins. In other words, you might want to say, hey, right, the only Rosh is someone who's completely bad. So even a terrible, terrible person will have some merits. And a tzaddik is someone who's completely, completely righteous. And everyone has some faults, has some missteps. In which case we understand then that the righteous might die and the evil might live. But he says, it was saying Beinoniyim. Beinoniyim is those who are right in the middle. So if Beinoni is right in the middle, then a Rosh is just one more. Or a tzaddik is just one more. Like the Rambam says, however we're going to weigh it, but it's a slight difference. So you have some people who are definitely heavier on the evil, and people who are definitely heavier on the righteous. Upamim, and we find, sometimes Hatzadikim, Nechtam Lamita. Righteous people are clearly signed for death. We see that happens. Urishaim are Gemurim and complete Rishaim. They're there for Chayim, for life. They're back again next year. The Chol Zeh, and all of this, he says, Dekari Hacha Gabi Rishaim Mita, the Gabi Tzadikim Chayim. All of this is in referring to Klomar L'Chayei Olam Haba. This is all referring to life in the world to come. Okay? So Tosfot's words are, this is referring to life in the world to come. A problem that we might have with that is, why on Rosh Hashana am I being judged about my next world, about my world to come? When should that judgment, when does and when should that judgment take place? After 120 years, when we finished our sojourn here on this earth, and we head up to the next realm, we cross what's called the Gesher HaChayim, the bridge of life that connects this world to the next world. That is where, and that is when, we're judged where will we be in that next world. So why should we have a judgment of Olam Haba, of world to come, Tosfot, when we're still very much here in this world? Why have an annual judgment of Olam Haba when we are here in this world? So let's see sources number 6 and 7. The Tosafot are those. Let's hear.
We're here and we're struggling and we're doing everything we can to prolong our life here. However, what we don't know is that we have a given period for both here and there combined. And when we die, we find out that it's 10 times better there. And had we known ahead of time, we probably would have asked to die the day we were born. But that's the irony of life, that we only find out things. So maybe the judgment day on Rosh Hashana is whether to allow us to pass there, because it could be better. That's actually what maybe
to get to the next world yet or not. But what it seems to be saying is of being judged for life or death. We seem to be saying we're being judged. Will we have the Olam Haba or not? So you want to say that it means, if I'm saying correctly, Aaron, you're bringing it back. Well, will I have Olam Haba? Will I die this world and go to Olam Haba or not? But then we're back to our original problem. Many righteous live, many righteous don't live, and many evil people do. So if it's simply, will I get to that Olam Haba this year?
Ones get not to live, which we see as a bad thing. Once you go there, you probably said that was their reward.
Oh, okay. I hear what you're saying, right? So, okay.
Well, very often, from our limited perspective, a young child dies, or a Torah scholar dies. So what a waste, or whatever. And then some people answer, well, whatever it was they meant to fulfill, they have fulfilled. So how do you deal with that? How do you bring that into this?
Okay, so let's hear. So far we've been dealing with sources. The Mishnah was about the year 200. The Gemara on that about the year 400. The Tosafot who asked, and Rambam who asked the question of the years 900, 1,000. Now we're going number 6 and 7 is the Sifsei Chaim or Chaim Freelander, who was 30, 40 years ago. And he writes very, very beautifully as follows. Yesh lahavin, we need to understand. Sharei din zeh, first the question, number 6. This ruling, l'chaye olam haba, about the world to come, eino b'Rosh Hashana. Right? That's not really taking place on Rosh Hashana. Ela rak la'acher p'tirat ha'adam. That's after a person has left this world. B'va'o lifnei beit din shel ma'ala. When he comes before the heavenly court. So he explains. Kviyut mahuto haruchanit. The establishing of a person's spiritual essence. Hu hadin b'Rosh Hashanah. That is what happens on Rosh Hashanah. Al chayei olam haba, as it relates to the world to come. V'chein le'inyin mashem chazal. That which the sages say in many places. Ezuhu ben olam haba. So who is a ben olam haba? So here it's translated in English. Who is destined for the world to come? But what does a ben actually mean? A child, right? Who is a ben olam haba? Who is this person who is in this realm of olam haba? It doesn't simply mean after his death he will get there. Right now he already is a ben olam haba, meaning mahuto, his essence is ben olam haba. This is an olam haba person. Even though he's still physically in this world, kfarhu mishirash b'olam ruchani. His roots, his essence is in the spiritual world. And that is the idea of the din, the judgment of Rosh Hashanah, referring to the world to come. On Rosh Hashanah, a person's spiritual essence is set. Al pi dargato, hainu adam kotev et sifro. He's very beautifully, a person actually is writing his own book. And based on that book that a person writes himself in, that will determine what will come his way in the year to come. Let's try to understand this just a little bit further. If a person is a ben olam haba, the person is destined for the world to come. So then, it might make sense for that person to have some difficulties during that year. It could make sense to have some difficulties during that year to cleanse that person of any misdeeds. And that way in Olam Haba, it's clear sailing. It also might make sense that for this person to have a very, very good, graceful, generous year. Why? Because that person is using this world in order to get him, he's utilizing this world really well. Let me step it back a second. Is it good to win the lottery? Possibly, right? In other words, actually studies have shown that the suicide rate amongst lottery winners is significantly higher than it is amongst the general population. Is it good to win the lottery? Well, it really depends. What is the person going to do with it? Right? A person wins the lottery and therefore says, hey, I'm not going to work another day in my life. Okay, well, it depends. If they're going to dedicate themselves to some good, worthwhile causes and lead a productive life where they don't need to worry about getting a salary and they can really throw themselves fully into wonderful causes, that's great. If it means that I'm going to not be productive for the rest of my life, that's not a good thing. So where is one heading with something? Right? So if a person is heading to Olam Haba, then the events that will shape that person's life year will be shaped in a way that best enables that person to best reach and maximize the Olam Haba that they've already written into their book. If a person is not a Ben Olam Haba, then the events that will shape that person's year will be shaped for a person who's here in this world. And that's where their roots are, that's what they're all about, and they're not connected to a spiritual realm. So the judgment about Olam Haba is not what Olam Haba a person will receive. That's after 120 years. The judgment at Olam Haba is based on where I'm heading. Then I've got to decide how I get there. What will shape me, right? If I'm heading out on a big camping trip, then I've got to pack my bags and I've got to pack and carry a heavy bag. If I'm driving, I'm going to a hotel with kosher meals nearby, I'm going to pack very differently for where I'm going. So where I'm ending up will determine how I pack along the way.
There's a charming fable about that I read once called The Happiest Man in the World. And what he was an explorer, and he wanted to climb the highest mountain in his area, and he prepares for it, and he's whistling and he's singing, and he starts climbing the mountain and keeps climbing and climbing, and just before he reaches the top, he dies. And the epithet is, there died the happiest man in the world. He was still striving.
Yeah.
He was still striving.
Yeah.
And it's in that process that we do our mitzvot, that we achieve.
We keep going. Something that has always sat with me when I got engaged to Natalie. So my grandfather, Lava Shalom, came over after Shabbos from Alava Malka to meet Natalie and everything. My grandfather at that time was 95 years old. Ours was the last wedding that he attended. But he was strong and he was strong to the last moment. Actually, I think it was on that Monday or on that Tuesday, he had went and bought some herring and some schnapps because he had a yahrzeit for his father coming up, and he went to Mincha Mariv at Shul that night. And on the way back, he had an aneurysm and passed away soon after that.
Yeah, died.
But he was...
That's it. Fulfilled
and I remember,
the last breath.
I remember at my house, I said to him, I said, Grandpa, how are things going? Grandpa had founded the shul. I said, how are things going at shul? And he says, he said, if I was 20 years younger, I would make a stink. He was 75, he would make a stink. At 95, he wasn't going to make a stink. Yeah, that's what we want. That's what you want. There's another concept that comes up that I wanted to touch upon. And this is based on the different psukim in Bereshit, and we learned some interesting halachot that come out from it. Let's take a look at part 2, source number 1, which is from Bereshit. right, God saves Avram's banished son, Yishmael, based on his sincerity on that day. Okay, we'll just go through in the English. The child grew and was weaned, and Avram made a large feast on the day that Yitzchak was weaned. And Sarah saw Yishmael, the son of Hagar the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Avram, was mocking. And Rashi, other commentators explain mocking involves lots of serious stuff, be it murder, be it idolatry, be it adultery. And she said to Avram, send out this maidservant and her son. The idea was evil in Avram's eyes on account of his son. God spoke to Avram and said, that which Sarah said about the boy should not be evil in your eyes. All that Sarah says to you, listen to her voice, for through Yitzchak shall your seed be called. Okay? Actually, here the Gemara learns out that Sarah was on a higher level of prophecy than Avram, than Abraham. Sarah was on a higher level than Abraham. God said to her, whatever Sarah says to do, listen to her. Right? And many Sheva brachas after a wedding, so we tell the groom, you see this? If God tells you explicitly to listen, then you listen. Otherwise, no. Okay. Now, and Avram awoke early in the morning and took a bread and a skin, meaning a pitcher of water, and gave it to Hagar, and he sent her away with Yishmael. And she went and wandered in the desert of Beersheba, and the water was finished from the pouch. And she cast the boy under one of the trees. She went and sat down at a distance of a bow shot from the tree, for she said, I do not want to see the death of the child. She sat across from him and raised her voice and wept. God heard the voice of the boy. Now it doesn't say God heard her voice. It says God heard the voice of the boy. And an angel of God called to Hagar from the heavens and said, what is troubling you, Hagar? Do not be afraid. God has heeded the voice of your child. Shema Elokim al kol hana'ar ba'asher hu sham. With where he is in his present state, and he opens up her eyes and she sees that there's a well of water nearby, and that she uses to give herself and her child to drink. But those are the key words: ba'asher hu sham, with where he is. And the Gemara learns from this: Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, ein danin et ha'adam. A person is only judged elafi ma'asav shel oto sha'ah, and only according to his actions at that time. As it says, God has heard the voice of the lad, ba'asher hu sham. So it's not what I will do, it's not what I won't do. Where am I at now? What is my feeling? What is my decision? What is my resolve? Where am I at now? Yes, Steve.
But don't we also learn that judgment is based on cumulative over the course of a lifetime? Right?
Okay.
But then we also, on Rosh Hashana, we say Hashem waits up until death.
Okay,
and
correct.
And if he repents.
Right. Look, where I am now is to a great degree based on this cumulative aspect of all the things that I've done. But it's also my resolve. Where am I heading? Where am I going? Right, that's what we said. Rosh Hashana, we have this almost inherent contradiction. It's a day of judgment, but it's the start of the year. We discussed this last week. Judgment is the past. Start of the year is the future. Right? So the past is certainly a factor, but an equal factor is not where I am, or not just where I am, but where am I heading? Ayeka, that's right. Rashi there on the Chumash says, number 3, Hunidon. According to the actions he's doing now, he is judged. Not based on what he will do in the future. The angels were accusing and saying, Master of the universe, so that in the future his children will cause your children to die from thirst. You are finding for him a well, right? In other words, when we were leaving Egypt and we encountered the descendants of Yishmael, so they came out, instead of giving us to drink, they came out with salty things that made us even thirstier. and then it says pitcher, these hides that were filled with air, right? They tortured us with thirst, and you're directing them towards a well. V'hu me shivam, and God, so to speak, answers these malachim. Achshav mahu, right now. What is he? Tzaddik or rasha, righteous or evil? Amrullah, the answer, tzaddik, righteous. Amrullah, God said, Lefi ma'asav shel achshav, anu dano. Right? Ani dano. According to his present actions, I will judge him. As it says, ba'asher hu sham. Number 4, we find one of the major foundations of tshuva, repentance, and God's reply to the angel's question, which our sages most certainly wanted us to consider at the time of the Torah reading. The sages wanted to teach us the principle of ba'asher hu sham, in his present state. Even if one's deeds are not of the highest caliber during the rest of the year, one should make every attempt to improve one's ways during the days preceding the Day of Judgment in order to receive a favorable verdict. This is so even if one suspects that he's likely to stumble after Rosh Hashana and not remain on the same spiritual level. A person is judged in his present state, not according to his future actions. Therefore, if a person raises his spiritual level to higher than normal plane on Rosh Hashana, he will receive a favorable judgment. Now, we'll discuss this in a minute. This seems to be strange. It seems to be almost, perhaps, a little bit hypocritical. Now, actually, in Source 5, we see that this concept has been encoded into Shulchan Aruch, the code of Jewish law. And there it says in Shulchan Aruch, Af mi she'eino nizhar, even someone who's not normally careful, mipat shel kutim, from eating bread that was baked. It might be kosher, but it was baked by non-Jews. So actually it's allowed, but there's a certain stringency that many adopt when it comes to that. Ba'aseret yimei teshuva, during the 10 days of repentance, Rosh Hashana through Yom Kippur, sarech lizaher, one should be careful. And the way that we understand that halacha is that in whatever realm it is, a person should take on a certain stringency, even if they don't normally do it, even if they're not planning on maintaining that afterwards, nevertheless, during that time, to adopt that stringency. And again, it seems to be somewhat hypocritical, right? Why am I doing it now if I'm not going to continue to do it? So the Yerushalmi, the Jerusalem Talmud, adds on a reason, and then I'll open it up to you, and then I'll share a reason that I understand. Number 6, the Yerushalmi says as follows: Rabbi Chia, Ruba Mefaked l'Rav, right? He instructed Rav, En atz yachol mechol kol shatachulin b'tara. Even if you can't always eat things in a state of ritual purity, if you can, echol, do. V'im lav, and if you can't, te'achil shiva yomim v'shata. Right? At least those 7 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, there adopt that stringency. Mikan, from here, Hayrechut ben Yara Omer, Zriz the Mevili de Nikiyah, Nikim Mevili de Tahara. Right? Zeal leads to cleanliness, cleanliness leads to purity. Right? In other words, what's the understanding? Take the step now, even though you're not planning on necessarily locking this in forever. Do it now, and perhaps you'll see that you can continue. Perhaps you won't continue fully, but you'll continue at least partially. Or perhaps when it comes to other matters, you'll ramp it up somewhat. That's one approach, right? So do it now, even though you're not planning on doing this long term. Maybe you will do it long term. Maybe you'll do it partially long term. Maybe you'll spill over into other areas. I have another approach that I'd like to offer, but I'll open it up. Right? Why is it okay? Why will that improve a person's judgment if they'll adopt a stringency during these days, the high holidays, Rosh Hashana through Yom Kippur, even though they knowingly will not continue that afterwards.
What we said on the previous page.
But why is it, that's what I'm asking. Why does that work? Why does that work? Is it a charade? Right? And actually by Yishmael it's easier. He wasn't going to do it, it was his children who were going to do it. His descendants were going to do it. He wasn't planning then on doing it. He himself didn't do it. But we were saying, we're going to plan. When Shulchan Aruch comes the day after Yom Kippur, I'm going to have my entenmann's again. Right? Perfectly kosher. But it's not baked by Jews. I'm going to go back to having entenmann's. But during these 10 days I won't. Or whatever it is that a person decides. I have no intention of maintaining it afterwards. So why isn't that a charade for me to do it now? Why is there any meaning, any power? Why is it effective for me to do it now?
If nothing more, it forces you to analyze your righteous and your not righteous actions. Your observance or you're not observant. It's like when a birthday comes and you pause on that particular day. Well, this forces you to take stock whether you want to or not. And by taking stock, there is a 50-50 chance that you'll be motivated to move forward.
Okay, nice.
We need
so I don't want to say
time.
This forces you to focus on it. Not just live life day after day after day, but to contemplate and to measure and to weigh your actions. Beautiful thought, Ida. Ken?
We're commanded to do, and then we can expect, hopefully, to understand.
Say it again?
We are commanded to do first.
Okay.
And then
nice.
understand.
So that's like the Yerushalmi, but a little bit more, right? You know, mitok shelo lishma ba lishma. Do it first, and then after you do it, you might dig into it more.
Right.
Nice. Right? A thought that I had, right? There's a verse that says, Dirshu Hashem b'himatzo. This verse refers to these days of the high holidays, Rosh Hashanah 3 Yom Kippur. Seek out God where He can be found. Kara'uhu, call out to Him, biyoto karov, when He is nearby. So we have this concept that, the Hasidim call it, the king is in the field, right? In other words, God is coming to us. So I'd like to give an example. Let's say, normally I like to listen to a certain type of music, to hard rock music, Guns N' Roses. Now, my Rosh Yeshiva, my rabbi is coming, and normally I've got Guns N' Roses blasting in my house. I like Guns N' Roses. My Rosh Yeshiva comes. He's staying overnight. I'm not going to blast Guns N' Roses. Am I being hypocritical? I'm being respectful. I'm not being hypocritical at all. I'm being respectful. So if I recognize the presence of someone who's in my house and I raise my bar, now, right, when he leaves, right, the music's going back on. The music's going back on. But when he's there, I'm not going to blast Guns N' Roses. What does that show? That shows a certain respect for him. It's not hypocritical at all. It's not a charade. Right? He says to me, do you listen to music? Yes, I listen to Guns N' Roses. Right? But with you here, I'm not going to blast it. It's out of respect for you. On these days, Hashem is, so to speak, in the house. Hashem is coming to us. He's availing Himself to us. So if I raise the bar and I take on certain aspects, certain stringencies that I don't normally do, and I fully plan to resume, not doing things that are wrong, but stringency, I'm not going to have those stringencies afterwards, that is not hypocritical. That is respectful. And that is, now the idea, the focus of the days of Rosh Hashanah is that God, we alter wording in our tefillah to refer to God as the Melech, as the King. So by doing that, I am showing respect for this King. I am acknowledging His kingship, acknowledging His kingdom, and acknowledging that these are days where His kingdom and His kingship is there for us, to us, at us. And if I'm acknowledging that, that is a tremendous step towards having a din, a judgment of Chayim. As we started with the first group of sources, Chayim meaning that I'm recognizing that Olam Haba, I'm living here, in this world, but I am a Ben Olam Haba. I am living in this physical world, but I am recognizing and connecting to the spiritual aspects of this world. So let me wish each and every one of you a kativa, v'chatima tova, that we should all be written and inscribed for a year of tremendous, we should all be B'nai Olam Haba, those who are rooted in our spiritual source, our spiritual world, and be blessed with a year of health, of happiness, of growth, of bracha, of blessing, of connectivity, those with children, of nachat, lots of nachat from our children, and we should give nachat to our Avinu Shvashamayim, our Father in heaven.
And may you grow from strength to strength.
Amen. All of us, thank you. Alan, can I trouble you to hit that button over there?
Wonderful.
Just the record button so it stops recording. With the red, right behind it with the red button.